up, gang? It's your girl, and I know it's been a while, and it's been too long for my liking, and I know it's probably only been like 3 to 4 weeks since my last upload, but listen, that's too long. I'm here to give you guys what you want, and that's more content, so that's what we're gonna do. So that being said, I want to check in with you guys. Like, I want you to take a moment. You know, I want to see how you're doing. I hope that you're doing okay with all of this corona quarantine. I know it's been rough. It hasn't been easy for me, that's for sure, but I'm going to keep bubbly and I'm going to keep smiling. And I just want you guys to remember to do that as well. But like I said, I just want you guys to stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe, and just remember that we're going to get through this. So yeah! Speaking of corona quarantine, I've been using a lot of this time to get through my backlog and to read a lot of new things and to revisit a lot of old things that I've been meaning to. So, like I said, I'm trying to take this corona thing very positively. Between reading comics, I'm spending a lot of time on Animal Crossing. But you're not here to see me talk about Animal Crossing. But maybe you are. So we're going to talk about comics, and we're going to talk about the comics that I read this March. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Black Widow. There's something about her character that I should like her character because it's peak aesthetic for me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, epic, freaking epic.
But I think ScarJo may have ruined her in the MCU. I can't quote on that. But there's just something about Black Widow for me that has just never stuck. And then we had the upcoming release of the movie, and there was something about that kind of got me a little hyped, but not totally hyped, but still made me want to read some Black Widow. So I finally took the opportunity to read this little gem. It is the Black Widow run from Chris Samnee and Mark Waid. Despite my not love for Black Widow, this is a run that I've been wanting to read for a while. Chris Samnee's art is absolutely gorgeous and absolutely is what dragged me in. I can honestly say that this Black Widow run, I'm really glad I started with it because I think that if I had read any other run, I don't think I would have liked it. Mark Waid and Chris Samnee make a beautiful team. They really do bring Natasha to life. She's action-packed, she's quick and fluid. What I really love about this book is that there's minimal dialogue. Like Joelle's Catwoman, which I mentioned in my previous video, a lot of the dialogue actually takes a backseat to Chris Samnee's action, and it's just fluid and gorgeous, and I absolutely love it. So in this particular iteration of Black Widow, she's going against S.H.I.E.L.D., she's on the run from S.H.I.E.L.D., and she has to revisit the Red Room, and there is, all of this conflict and tragic backstory that dives into it without it feeling overwhelming and without it, I'm assuming, feeling overdone. From what I've heard from a lot of Black Widow comics is 90% of them tend to go that Red Room route. However, as somebody who has never read any Black Widow, I really did appreciate it, and this is one of those books that I literally could not put down, and I can't wait to pick up the next 3 trades, so that is definitely going to be on a future TBR or whatever it is that I'm reading sort of thing. Whatever it is we're doing here. You guys already know about my passionate and affirmative love for Volt comics. There's just something about them that is so special and I love them so much. And this particular series that I'm going to talk about actually has a super special place in my heart because not only was it the first Vault comic I ever read and collected, but it's super queer. So obviously it's going to have a super special place in my heart. Heathen, published by Volt Comics, is written and drawn by Natasha Altereschi. It is a super queer Viking story. So there you go. Thing over. You should read it. Bye! But in all seriousness, this book is just absolutely fabulous. I will say that getting through the first few pages of the art can be a little rough. The first issue in particular is drawn very harshly. However, I think that works for the Nora style setting. And as the issues particularly go by, the art kind of does pick up and formulate its own style, which I have grown to personally love a whole lot. But let's talk about what Heathen's about because I'm sure you want to know that.
This is a load of barnacles.
It follows a young girl named Adis, who's a Viking warrior who has actually been shut off from her tribe. So Adis has always heard rumors about the Valkyrie Brynhild, who was cast out by Odin, and there's this rumor that any man or any mortal who were to free and marry Brunhild, it would free her from her curse atop this hill, and she could finally go about and live the rest of her days. So Adis, being the young woman and queer woman and just wanting to help people that she is, goes off to help Brynhild. And in doing so, she gets caught into this ridiculous web of Odin's lies and Odin's trickery. It boils down to these two women trying to overthrow Odin because he's just an evil psychopath and a man that needs to be stopped. So yeah, it's a fun ride. And what makes Heathen so special in this particular video is I actually went and read both volumes, and now I am caught up on Heathen, and I'm very sad because comics, as you know it, are on hiatus, and this book already takes a million years to come out issue by issue. So I'm just really sad that I have to wait even longer for this ridiculously great book. I love it. It's so good. It's so good, guys. All right, so you guys know I got a few hot takes, so let's get into a hot take. I finally read Heroes in Crisis. I read it in trade, but I don't have the trade anymore, so here's the first issue of Heroes in Crisis. I need y'all to listen, and listen carefully. Heroes in Crisis wasn't that bad. I mean, it wasn't great. It really was not great. I have a lot of issues with Heroes in Crisis, but the internet absolutely tore this book apart as it was being released, and I just think that it was super unnecessary because, as I said before, it's not that bad. For those of you that don't know, Heroes in Crisis was a big DC comic epic that happened last year. It involved superheroes from all walks of life. There was this place called Sanctuary, which was supposed to be a safe haven for superheroes. It kind of to help relieve them of their PTSD, because as you know, being a superhero, it's probably not the easiest job. You probably go home in a cold sweat and crying because you couldn't save, Grandma Betty down the street, or because, your teammate got eviscerated by Darkseid.
Darkseid wins.
So being a superhero is not easy. And Tom King worked to explore, that side of superheroism. It was also thrown in that the members of Sanctuary and heroes that were traveling to Sanctuary were slowly being killed off one by one. And it boiled down to whether it was Harley Quinn or Booster Gold who did it. And it turned into this big mystery whodunit. And then they kind of nose-bombed and threw in this ridiculous twist that I personally did not care for. But I'm not going to attack the whole internet like some people did, because y'all are just a little ridiculous. But let's talk about what I did like in Heroes in Crisis. I loved the art. The art from Clayman and occasional art from Lee Weeks is absolutely ridiculous. These guys know how to draw comic book characters. And speaking of characters, there's literally so many characters in this book. You get these little moments of confessionals from our heroes. So we get to see heroes like Green Arrow, Batman, Wonder Woman, Black Canary. We even get to see characters that haven't been seen since the New 52, like my favorite Fire and Ice. Listen, DC Comics, please bring back Fire and Ice, because these are some great girls and I just want to see them again. But we get to see these characters sort of break down and have these very personal moments of hurt and loss and just dealing with, the way that any normal human would deal with these sort of situations. And I really liked that. But like I said, the story does get a little convoluted. Honestly, you can kind of see where Dan Didio and DC Editorial were sticking in their thumb. There was a lot of controversy with this series. Tom King wanted to do one thing, but then DC wanted to go another direction, and it just kind of turned this very personal book about trauma and loss and PTSD and turned it into a murder mystery whodunit. And I really did hate that part about it. That being said, if you are a fan of DC Comics and DC Comics characters, I definitely would check it out, because it is at its core a love story to DC Comics characters. As I said in my previous video, Tom King has this way of taking characters that you may not have even heard about and kind of makes you connect with them on a personal level, which is the case with these confessions, even if they are only in small little vignette bubbles. So yeah, that's Heroes in Crisis. So there's something about being in a pandemic, and this is going to sound really, really wrong. There's something about being in a pandemic that makes me want to consume post-apocalyptic content. And by looking at the internet, I'm not the only one. So now I don't feel bad about saying that. But speaking of being in a pandemic and going the post-apocalyptic route, I'm taking this time to revisit Sheltered, which is a indie comic from Image Comics. Now, Sheltered was a book that I actually picked up at the start of my comic book collecting career. You say that like this is my job. I mean, it kind of is your job. You are that comic girl. So I guess we're in it for the long haul. Sheltered came out in like 2014-ish, so it's actually quite old when you think about comic book standards. But Sheltered deems itself a pre-apocalyptic tale, which I find really interesting and isn't something that we hear very often. So Sheltered starts off following a little compound, and it's a group of men and women and children and their families, and they are literally preparing for the apocalypse. They have sheltered themselves off from the world, and they are preparing for an inevitable doomsday. However, things take a dark turn when the children actually turn on their parents because they believe that they will not be able to survive with the supplies given with their parents because there's just too many people. So you get this really interesting conflict between the kids themselves, because of course there's those that follow this leader relentlessly and are like, okay, you're doing the right thing, we're gonna follow you. But then you have those that are like, this is wrong, we literally just killed our parents. So you get a lot of this really great internal conflict between these children, and it's honestly just going to tear them apart. I really love this book, and I think I love this book as much as I did 6 years ago or so when I first read it, and it's one of those books that I just don't hear people talk about. So if you are looking for a sort of post-apocalyptic pandemic, tale, definitely pick up Sheltered, because it is one of those books that is often mislooked, and it should be read more because it really is just awesome and great, and I love it. Now, I don't read a lot of manga. I'm slowly getting better at that. I'm finding manga that I like. I'm just not the type of person that likes shoujo, tokidoki. There's something about it that I find silly and ridiculous. Now, I know you didn't just say that, like you didn't just binge watch all of Death Note, because you definitely won't shut up and you definitely won't stop talking about it. That being said, I really love the art style of manga, so I'm trying to focus, and I actually have a lot of friends that are helping me find books. So I finally ventured off and finally read Smashed by Junji Ito, and I don't have Smashed, so we're gonna throw it up here because I've already given it back to a friend. So there's Smashed by Junji Ito. And speaking of Junji Ito, I hope that I'm pronouncing that right. I really, really love Smash. This was such an excellent story. It's actually a bunch of short stories, which I really love, and they're all horror based. And what I really like the fact about it being short stories is that A, it was able to keep my attention, because y'all know I got the attention of like a little bird. And B, I liked the short story format because it allowed these horror stories to go on and progress without overstaying their welcome. And when I say that these are horror stories, I mean these are like mind-bending, psychological, freak you out, make you sleep with the light on horror stories. I really loved everything about them. They pushed the boundaries of horror, and wow, I can't wait to read more. So I am definitely going to be reading more Junji Ito in my future, and I'm very, very excited about that. All right, so last book on the list is actually Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, written by Tom Taylor. And I realize now that I think every video that I've had, I have talked about Tom Taylor, but he is just such a great writer, and I really love him. Now, Spider-Man is another one of those characters that I'm just not a huge fan of, and my brother is actually a huge fan of Spider-Man, and he's always trying to explain to me, I love Spider-Man because he is there for the people. And I never really got that until I read Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Tom Taylor does a really great job breaking down Spider-Man's character. For once, I was able to see Spider-Man interacting with the people and being this people's hero. It just really made my heart soar, because I was like, oh my god, this little Peter Parker boy, he's so sweet and I love him and he just wants to help people. Now, this book in particular, this is volume 2. One of the arcs is actually Spider-Man has to go against a big GoFundMe villain, which I thought was really interesting and really neat. It also made me really sad because it made me realize how much we rely on things like GoFundMe for things as simple as healthcare. And that is something that I find happens a lot in this Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man run, is Tom Taylor goes and he pushes on these issues. I know in the beginning of this volume in particular as well, he also tackles like the homeless problem. I don't like being sad when I read my comics, but at the same time, this comic made me really happy because there's a lot of jokes and a lot of quips, and I really like some of the moments in this comic. Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, I read volume 1 last year and I absolutely loved it, so I decided to keep going. And volume 2 definitely did not disappoint. I think I actually like volume 2 more than I like volume 1, just because we kind of get to see Peter Parker and more of his Peter Parker-ness. We also get to see a special appearance from the Prowler, which I thought was really cool considering my hype from Into the Spider-Verse, so that was really awesome. And I know I've probably already disclaimed that this book is really sad, but this book gets even sadder, and I'm not going to spoil it. You're just going to have to read it, but just know that you should probably have tissues because it gets really, really sad really quick. So that's it. That's what I've been reading throughout March. It's not It's not small, but it's not as big as I would have liked. I'll admit Animal Crossing has kind of taken over my life and I'm not reading nearly as much, but I'm going to make sure that for April, we're going to have a bigger list. I've already read a couple things that I'm really excited to talk about with you guys, so you guys have that to look forward to. And of course, before I wrap up this video, I just want to give you guys a huge shout out and thank you. As always, you guys are just so supportive of me. I can't believe just the amount of support that you guys give me. You guys are sharing my videos on your social medias, which I love watching. I love watching you guys film yourself watching my videos. Like, it's silly, but I really love doing that. You guys are constantly commenting and pushing me and wanting me to do better things and greater things, and y'all are awesome. And like I said in the last video, thanks to you guys, I hit 100 subscribers. Like I promised, I'm going to do a 100 subscribers Q&A. I know I have already left places on both my Twitter and my Instagram where you can drop me questions and comic things, but also if you want to talk to me and leave me other comic book questions, you can always comment down below and leave me your questions, or if you just want to say hi, but I will definitely be getting to those in an upcoming video, and I'm very excited about doing a mini comic Q&A. So, as always, thank you, and I'll see you in the next one, and